I'd like to welcome you to this introductory episode of the Tennessee History Nerd. I'm Big John Summers, your host for this little shindig, and I'm really glad you've decided to join me. This podcast, this whole project, is a labor of love, and I hope that comes through to you as we spend some time together exploring the stories of Tennessee's past. I can't remember a time when I wasn't fascinated by history. My mom was a history teacher for many years, and she passed along that love to me. And growing up here in Middle Tennessee, I was surrounded by history. Civil War battlefields, old homesteads, places like Andrew Jackson's Hermitage and the Sam Davis home, and quiet places that still have something to say if you're willing to listen. Back in high school, I even wrote a Tennessee history column for our school newspaper. My junior year, way back in 1986, I took fourth place in the state history contest, and I won my high school's history medal. Well, over the years, that interest never really left. Friends and family would send me books and articles and podcasts, and a number of them are historians or authors themselves. So eventually the question became, how do I share this with others? And that's where the idea for this podcast began. Now, people sometimes ask, why Tennessee history? Isn't that a little narrow? And I understand the intent behind the question, but the truth is, if you really want to understand a place, if you really want to understand people, you start where you are. As my good friend Dan Malik once wrote, we're obliged to care about history because the past is the foundation of who and what we are. In Tennessee? Well, Tennessee is a crossroads. It's a place where cultures meet, where stories overlap, where history doesn't sit quietly in a textbook. It lives in the land, in the towns, in the people. And one of the things about Tennessee is this. If you understand Tennessee, then you'll probably also understand a whole lot about America too. So, what's this podcast really about? Well, as I've been working toward launching this project, I've come to think about it with 5 concepts at its core: resurrection, recollection, rectification, relationships, and responsibility. Resurrection is about bringing forgotten stories back to life. There are places all over this state, small cemeteries, old foundations, quiet corners, that most people pass by without ever knowing they exist or what happened there. And people who once were important in their time and in their communities, but whose impact has faded with time, and as their circles have dwindled and disappeared, well, I believe those stories deserve to be uncovered and told again. Recollection is about taking the stories that we think we already know and remembering them more fully, because sometimes we remember just enough to recognize a name or a place, but not enough truly to understand it. Rectification is about restoring depth and context. History has a way of sometimes getting flattened or misshapen over time, of being oversimplified or reduced, sometimes just plain misunderstood. My goal isn't to argue with people, but it is to present the story as completely and accurately as I can. And that may occasionally jeopardize sacred cows, but the intent is to seek out and tell the truth as accurately as I can. And ultimately, this all leads to something deeper: relationships. Because history isn't just about the past. It's about connecting the people of today to all those stories and helping them to see where they fit into them. When you can take a place, a name, an event, and suddenly it doesn't seem so distant or untouchable or unknowable anymore, then it becomes real again. It's human. It's connected. And that's when something changes, something important and good and necessary, and sometimes even something profound. That's when the connection happens. That's when the story starts to matter. And when it matters, then people remember it. And when they remember it, then they want to preserve it. And that leads to the final idea, responsibility. Because these stories don't just belong to the past. They're entrusted to us. My mom taught me that, not in a classroom, but in the way she approached history. She took my sister and me into cemeteries and old places across probably at least 6 or 7 counties and spent a lot of time talking to people, recording their memories and preserving their stories. And all of those people are gone now. They can't tell their stories anymore. So if their stories are going to live on, then someone else has to carry them forward and ensure that they aren't forgotten. Someone else has to recover them from the silence and share them and explain them and care about them. And that's what this is all about. It's not just telling old stories, but about preserving memories and keeping them for future generations so they don't disappear. And in a very real sense, this podcast is a love letter from me to the state that birthed me. Now, as we travel this journey together, you're going to find that Tennessee's history is wide-ranging. Yes, we'll definitely talk about the Civil War, but we'll also talk about music and migration and invention and resilience and sometimes things that are just plain strange, because Tennessee has always been a little bit of everything. We're also going to cover all 95 counties in this state. Some of them get a lot of attention, but most of them don't. But every single one of them has stories worth telling. Now, I want to be clear about something. I'm not a professor and I don't have a degree in history. I'm just a guy with a deep and abiding interest in Tennessee's past. And I'll do my best to be accurate. But if I miss something or get something not quite right, I want to hear about it, because accuracy matters and I appreciate the help. In the weeks ahead, we'll travel from mountain ridges to river valleys, from prehistory to the Civil War to the modern era, because Tennessee's story is America's story told with a Southern accent. So make it a point to join me as new episodes are released. Our very first one is being released today. It's called Sweet 16. If you'd like to learn more about what we're doing, you can visit our website at www.summersmediaenterprises.com. There you'll find background information, episode links, and more as this project continues to grow. Thanks for being here. I'm looking forward to spending this time with you, sharing these stories, one place, one person, one moment at a time. But until then, I'm Big John Summers, the Tennessee History Nerd, and I am history.